everyone, and welcome back to the Unrestricted podcast. I'm MattyStuntz, and I'm also joined here with Chad Kapper.
Hi, I'm Chad.
And Drew, aka Ladrib, scheduling issues this week, so he's not going to be able to join us, but I'm joined here with two excellent pilots that make excellent content and are just great people at the same time. Bryce, aka Skyberries.
What's up, guys?
And a pilot that, you know, I hold really dear to my heart. Not that I don't hold Bryce dear to my heart, but Provo, Christian, aka Provo, FPV.
Hey, how's it going?
Now, Provo is one of those guys who I admire because he can literally do it all. And we're gonna talk long range this week, right? But he can do it all. He can race. He can freestyle. He has his own type of style when it comes to freestyle. And then he also long ranges. And I've just gotten into this field of flying myself and stumbled upon Skyberries and noticed that you two were big into long ranging. And that's why we've invited you to talk long range this week.
Hey, wait, so you just said long rangers. So I pictured like rangers that are going the distance.
People who fly long range.
I just posted a poll today about what mini quad pilots are called. And, you know, are they FPVers? Are they, you know, and everybody voted for FPV pilot. So if you're, you know, a skater,
FPV
one
pilot.
who skates. Yeah, but it doesn't roll off the tongue.
I don't even say FPV. I just say drones now. I don't even want to like FPV. What's FPV?
Yeah.
I just say drone, even though I don't like the word drone. Just easier that way.
I race drones. That's what I say.
Yeah.
And then if they get into it, you can explain the whole FPV thing. But
yeah. Other than that, it's just sit back and watch me drone.
Yeah. So long ranging, it's something I never would have thought in a million years I would have done or liked. And to be totally honest, Rebel, who is Chase from Rebel, said, "Okay, Matty, we're going to send you out some long ranging equipment." And I said, "Absolutely hell no. I don't think it's
like,
for
I don't
me."
want that stuff junking up my room.
I don't. Why would I ant
gross.
straws and that are conservative and, you know, these big props and all that stuff and motors that are low kV. Never thought I would have done it. And then just recently, I just dropped an edit.
yeah, I saw that. That was a great edit.
Yeah, so first go at the long ranging, and I absolutely am addicted now. And it's it's something about it. It gives you that thrill that I had at the very beginning of sending your quad all the way up this mountain with absolute dire consequences if anything goes wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's just something about that and being out in nature and just knowing that I'm sending this thing so far out, and the risk level of doing even like the littlest trick, it has like magnified hundreds of times. Because literally in that edit, there are some places I can never go unless I maybe have a helicopter and like a rope where they can like lower me down onto like the cliff and get my quad back, right?
Bryce knows all about that.
Yeah, I've actually done that with the ropes, dangling myself down off the cliff to get my quad.
Can we stop and hear this story? I want to hear this.
I've seen some stuff, some pretty crazy stuff. So really quickly, Provo, how many quads have you lost?
I've lost 5 quads.
Full setups.
3 GoPros.
3 GoPros and 5 quads.
Yeah. So 2 without GoPros.
And then how many of those came back? Are they just gone forever?
Those are the ones that are gone.
How many times have you crashed and got them back?
I don't know, probably 20 times.
Oh my God, that's insane.
The problem is with long range, when you crash, you don't get your quad back. If you're lucky, if you get half of your quad back.
And why is that?
I mean, when you're doing long range, like these waterfalls and things, if you crash and you're tumbling all the way to the bottom, you're just going to have a pile of parts. You're not going to have your quad back. You're going to have something that resembled the quad.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So that's one thing that I saw. So Bryce, how many quads have you lost so far?
I misplaced one on the mountain yesterday. I haven't gone back for it yet. But
Now, is this the one where
Misplaced.
the video cut out on you?
Yeah, this is one where I'm flying along and something just burned up mid-flight and took my Hero 6 with it and all such things.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so this actually happened to me last week. So what power were you running your VTX at?
So I was running it at 800 milliwatts. Typically, I'm only on 500. On this one, I wanted to be safe, so I bumped it up to 800. I've done it before without any issues, but for some reason, this time was the time.
I don't think it was the VTX, though, because like you say, he had 2 or 3 frames at the end there that kind of indicated something else was going on. For one, one of the last frames showed his amp draw at like 3 amps, which is not, I mean, that's not indicative of a VTX going out. But well,
I think the last frame it dropped all the way down to like 1. I'm figuring that I probably had a battery issue or some sort of power issue where maybe one of the cells dropped out or multiple, and it
could it be possible that you put in a bad battery, like a used battery?
No, it wouldn't have gone bad that fast.
Yeah, it was fully charged. I was flying 5S and I was still at 18.5, and then it dropped out. So I mean, it's really anybody's bet as to what happened unless I can find the quad and see what went wrong.
Right,
it's just a guessing game.
And you have DVR of where it went down? Sort
of. So I have DVR of where it went down, but I have this instinct that kicks in when video goes out. Usually you level out as best you can, hit the throttle, and then I'll usually do if I'm going away, I'll do a blind 180. I just kind of know the feel of the sticks, so I can kind of get it pointing the right direction. So I did that. I punched up, leveled out, did 180, pointed it forward, and never saw it again. So if I dropped a cell, I'll know where it went down because I have the last DVR. If that wasn't the case, I have no idea where it went.
Now, how far away were you from your actual location?
I wasn't too far. I was about a mile out. The problem was I think it was about 2,000 feet up in a quarter mile, so it's on a really steep face that it would be quite an interesting face to try to scour and comb through with a fine-tooth comb.
Now, at a mile, because I'm obviously here in Canada, so I'm in kilometers, right? Yeah. At a kilometer, if I punch the throttle, I may hear it. Obviously, the mile, you can't hear it, right?
No, I actually went up with a quad today just to test that. I went up to where I crashed, hammered the throttle, and I couldn't hear a thing.
Right.
I got a little bit of an echo off the canyon wall, but not much.
Yeah. And when shit's going south, I find with long ranging, and it doesn't matter even if you're in a park and you're flying over some tall trees, when shit starts going south, you don't think to hear, like, to listen for it, you know what I mean? You're just like, everything else is going in a million different directions. You're trying to remember where the frame was. You're like, oh my God, I just lost like $1,000 worth of shit, and there's all these different thoughts going through your head. So it's hard to really focus on that little bit of noise you might have heard from that first initial blip as well, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let me clear this up. I lost 5 quads, but that was over 8 months ago. So my record in the last 8 months is impeccable. I just wanted to clear that up.
Clear your name. Clear your name.
Okay, the other question is, how long have both you guys been flying long range for?
Oh, well, we got into it about the same time.
Yeah, it was.
Has it been a year?
It's been about a year. It's
because I really got into it after the race season, after last race season. So right before winter.
Well, we did a little bit of it during the race season. We just never got.
That's true.
I remember because I'm full on racer as well. Bryce is a racer as well, and we dedicated most of our time to racing. But we did dabble in the long range a little bit during the season, but we couldn't go full on because we were trying to win a championship. But
so at what distance is considered a long ranger?
That's a great question.
Good question, Chad.
I want to get into this as well.
Yeah.
Are we talking tiny whoops? Are we talking 5-inch? Are we talking some 15-inch monster?
Well, wait.
So I consider I've broken it down into two different categories. There's long range and then there's mid range. And mid range is a range at what it's a range where you're comfortable doing things. So you'll fly up to a cliff face and and maybe go between a couple of trees and then dive down the mountain where you'll still have enough power to pull out. And long range is more of all right, just set the throttle and don't touch the throttle and let's try to get to the top of that peak and then turn around and hope your battery lasts. That's long range,
so
and that's
what
about 3
distances?
miles.
Okay, so what's mid range? What's the range?
So mid range is about 1.5 miles. So at 1.5 miles, you still have enough battery to be able to do stunts and tricks and things far away.
I see what you're saying.
When you try to go out 3 miles and then turn around and make it back home, you're
hoping that you don't have like a headwind.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You have to conserve the power. And if you can get out further than that, chances are you're carrying a large battery which doesn't allow you to do any tricks. Or Bryce did 13 miles on it's on a lithium ion battery.
Yeah.
But I mean, what it has a max watt draw of
160 watts.
160 watts, which is that barely keeps your propeller spinning. So.
Yeah, it's like you can pull 10 amps. Don't go over 10 amps.
Right.
So that whole flight was the most boring flight, but it really kind of like
I didn't want to finish it.
Yeah.
I mean,
so this is I just had this talk with my buddy Aaron, right? Because my buddy Aaron's been doing this, and you guys have been hearing a lot about Aaron, A-Bomb FPV, and we basically were like, okay, because we're like, what's long range, what's mid range? Because whenever we say let's go mid ranging or let's go long ranging, we're like, okay, well, what are we doing? And I think that mid range, to me at least, is any area you can make it with an acro quad, like just a regular 1600 milliamp, you're just regular setup. As far as you can go out with that was what we said. And then anything where you needed something different than this to reach it, we would consider long range. But that makes sense though.
That's a good qualification, I think.
Yeah, but that makes sense though, where it's like an actual like you're not stopping and lollygagging. You're going and then you're trying to come back and like that's it. Because I know what you mean. I was when I was flying these like mid-range missions for this last edit, it's like, okay, do I have enough juice to do maybe a couple punch outs? And because coming home, I didn't really feel like having to walk almost a kilometer out to the base of the mountain to get my quad, right? So yeah.
Well, I think me and Bryce, we learned that you can do long range with we went straight from the race season, and the first flight we did, I think, wasn't it that 3 mile jaunt we did with your race quad? All you did was he just put a larger battery on it. I mean, he's running the Deadpool motors. They were like 2450 kV with 5-inch propellers, and he was able to do 3 miles. But what we learned is that it's all about your throttle management, and he was able to do it because he put his throttle at about 25-30%, and he just left it there. The big thing is when you start pumping the throttle, moving the throttle around, then your amp draws really goes up, and your battery starts to drain a lot quicker. And I don't know. I just want to, I think people get stuck on like, well, I need low KV motors, and I need these perfect 7-inch props, which there's no such thing. But you can do long range with 5-inch.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's the other thing I also noticed. It was a big learning experience for me, at least. Like my first time long ranging, we went up to this place called Stave Lake, and we basically had to go down this login road like 25K, and then we set up and we're like, let's go hit this one rock face, right?
25K, that's kilometers, right?
25 kilometers, yeah, up a dirt road. So I'm like, I want to hit this rock face. How far away do you think that is? And he's like, it's probably just a kilometer away. First mistake. There's these things called false peaks, and false peaks are exactly what they're called. The peak looks like it's way closer than it actually is. Yeah. And so he's like, and then also too, this peak is over water. So I have to like go over this big, huge, like body of water before I even get to like the place I want to go to. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll just set my timer to what it usually is, and if I don't make it there, I don't make it there. I just do an about face and I come back, right? So literally, like my very first time long ranging was like all the things you don't do. A 6S like acro setup over a body of water with like no OSD, no nothing, right? And like props that are just like super aggressive. The timer went off. I didn't even get over the body of water. To be totally honest, I didn't even know the body of water was there. I got out and then I'm like, holy shit, there's a lake below me. And I'm like, I have to go over this lake first. And so that was like my very first experience. I didn't even get to the actual like mountain. That's one
of the beauties of long range though, is you'll fly up to a mountain. There's been plenty of times where I've thought, oh, this mountain is ugly and boring or whatever. And then I decide to fly it anyways, but you'll get up there, and halfway up there, you'll discover that the mountain doesn't look anything like it looked from down below.
Absolutely.
Sometimes that's good, and it's usually it's good, and the mountain opens up and really becomes dynamic and becomes more beautiful as you get closer to it. But that's also the dangerous part, is that you don't actually know where you are because it looks different.
That's right. You don't know if you've fallen into a valley or if you've fallen below line of sight or a peak or whatever, which was something else that just happened to me, my buddy Aaron, this last weekend when we went out to the crazy mountains that we were flying. And I'm like, I think you just lost line of sight, man. And then as soon as I said that, his video was just like gone, right? And then he does the big punch out, gets above it, and then he's safe again, right?
Yeah. If you're lucky, you can catch it. If you're dropping behind the ridge and you can't punch out before your receiver drops out, then you're out of luck.
I haven't lost a quad as long as I've had a spotter. And I think that's true for Bryce as well. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, that's very much true.
Yeah. Yep. And it's just much... That's my number one tip.
To have a spotter.
Have a spotter. Well, yeah. When you get into long range, have a spotter. They can see things.
So now, what is he spotting? Is he spotting? Because obviously, once it goes like 500 feet away, you can't see the quad really anymore. So, are you spotting through the video as well?
But what he can do is that he'll have his own goggles on, right? But he can take them off and kind of look up, and then look at the goggles again, and he can kind of triangulate. Well, that peak is in line of sight, but the one that you're looking at, it is not in line of sight. Don't go there, So he can do those kind of things. The spotter also has a much greater ability to stay calm, which is which is a key element of being able to get your quad back. When you're flying it yourself, for whatever reason, you tend to panic more. And the spotter, he usually stays calm and can give you direction that way.
It can kind of calm you down. You can use him as a reference. Say, hey, I'm headed to this peak. Can we see it from where we're at? He's jumping in and out of the goggles. And I mean, if you're long ranging, you're pretty much trying to get there and back. You don't have a lot of time to hover and do that yourself. So
do you guys not go? Do you just like send it, or is it like I did scouting missions where I would go turn around, see if my video is okay, look to see where I am, and like know that like, okay, I can still see that outline of like the clear cut that I'm in, so I'm going to keep on going. Do you guys do those missions, or do you just send it?
No, we have a routine. I usually do a flight without the GoPro, because the GoPro it actually costs more than most of the quads I have. So I'll fly up without the GoPro on there, and I'll do those kinds of things where I'll fly into an area and see if the video is good, and we usually go up one at a time at first, But once we get comfortable with the area and we know where we can fly, then we'll go up together and do a lot of, we'll do kind of follow footage.
It's helpful to really map out the terrain too, where you're going up a chute. You say, okay, I've got a bush on this side and then a rock on this side, a tree with a big limb here. And so when I'm going up the chute, I like to kind of memorize the route in reverse.
Yeah.
And I have these, it's kind of like if you're editing a film, you have these key frames. Well, there are these key points in the chute where you're saying, here, I know I need to turn left and drop throttle. Here, I need to get right so I can avoid this bush. Because then when you're coming down, you kind of have the route already memorized. So instead of just having to react all the time, you can preemptively get your quad in position. So you can get a little lower down, a little closer, and hopefully not have to hike.
Well, that's the thing with me. It was a big learning curve, and Aaron actually was following you, Bryce, actually. And he's like, Skyberry's actually, he doesn't fly with a GoPro. He just scouts and then he'll do it. I'm like, that makes sense. Let's start doing it. And it was good because there was these shoots. Like, you don't realize because it's so far away, but like the shoots that I was in, they looked like nothing from where I was. And then you get into them and all of a sudden it's like 40-foot overhead, like cliffs. And it's a good thing that I went up it slowly and just like saw everything and then came back down and was like, okay, this is the line. And then I was able to come back, get my composure back, throw in a GoPro, and then go back up and try to hit it a little bit gnarlier, right? But yeah, if anyone's wanting to get into the long range and you have the environment and the terrain to do it, I would definitely say take baby steps and don't fly over water for your first one and like send it over body of water. Like really take baby steps and go slow and like try to take some of these tips that we're also saying too, where leave the GoPro out, do a scouting mission. I have a checklist that I do, so I check my battery once I put it in. I check my beeper because I have a drone keeper, which is a beeper that works off a gyro. So as soon as the quad stops for 30 seconds, it'll start beeping. I check to see if my props are tight, just in case I might have hit like a ghost branch while I was up there. I didn't notice it, and one of my props came on loose, or the locking nut came on tight. And as many of those things as you can, and even have like a second set of goggles, because like there was a time when my goggle battery died and I was just freestyling, but like it's like I'm freestyling and it just falls. But if it does it up there, it's gone, and it's like it sucks. Well, losing a quad is probably, you'll have a sick feeling in your stomach. It's like $1,000 just poof, and obviously having like sponsorships and everything are better, but like even these GoPro 6s, I'm about to buy one. It's $500. Yeah. And you never get it back. Well, so it's always good to take as many steps as you can to try to make sure that it's a safe flight back, right? Do you guys have a checklist that you do before you take off?
Yeah. I have one. I don't allude to this much in my videos, but I like to take the time to plan my flight path quite a bit, and I'll set like some lines, and I say, okay, I want to hit this group of trees, and I have this on the crack on the left and this on the right, and so I'll have a little bit of a flight plan already in my mind, but you have to really accept that sometimes things are going to happen that you can't plan for. There's been quite a few times that Prov and I have been flying and my battery dies, and I just stay in the goggles and wait while he plugs a new battery in. And then flips to the right channel so I have video back. Or we'll be flying and next thing I know, I'm getting taken out of the air by a hawk that is, I've crossed through his territory.
No way.
He's diving down in front of me and he takes me out of the air.
No way.
Always run your DVR. Because
always run DVR. DVR is a huge thing.
I'm petrified whenever I see a bird because is it a hawk? Eagles, they stay away.
So what happened with this hawk?
I was just flying along. Luckily, we were pretty close to myself, but we were just kind of, buzzing around doing some basic freestyling in the trees. The next thing I know, I get knocked out of the air. I look in the slow motion, and luckily, for me, just for fun, I can see the hawk come in front of the GoPro, grab the quad, and get pulled into the props. So I take the goggles off as soon as it happened, wondering what in the world happened. I know where my quad is because there are little feathers floating down through the air. And I see the bird flying off. The bird was fine, but it was something that I would have never expected. And sometimes that happens. You don't expect a video transmitter burning up. You just kind of...
Yeah.
They're the wild cards.
I was about a kilometer and a half away up a mountain heading towards a chute. And there's two things that actually happened to me. The one thing was I went to click my DVR on because I forgot that I did it. I didn't. And it went into the playback screen.
Oh, yeah.
And this is so true. The pilot always panics. And the first thing I did was, Aaron, it's so easy for me just to set my sticks, go on autopilot and go like this and like this. But I'm like, Aaron, come unplug my battery. Hurry up.
Yeah.
And there was that one. And then there was another one where this guy thought we were filming his house. And he came rolling up into it like with his truck. So all I hear is this like big diesel, and like this guy gets out of the truck and he's like, hey man, you guys fucking filming my house? And I'm like, oh my God. I'm literally like 3 minutes away. I cannot get into a fight right now and like put down my stuff, So like I really quickly do an about face, set it on autopilot and do this to see what I'm working with, right? And it just turned out the guy, I don't know. We smoothed it over really quickly. I got the quad back home and we made friends with him. But obviously he didn't want his house being filmed. But
yeah.
Anything can happen.
If he had a little more of a hot head, you could have just been punched or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's like
right in the face.
Yeah. The worst thing was he had two pit bulls that looked like they could eat a horse in the back of the car. So we were like,
I'd have taken the goggles off and started running.
Yeah.
Heck with the quad. I'll point it towards me and start running towards it, and we'll meet somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Well, some of the
his name was Chad, by the way. Chad.
Ooh.
What's that?
His name was
Chad. Huh?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like a Chad.
Yeah.
And by the way, Chad, you've been a little bit quiet here, but has Rotor Riot done like a long range episode yet?
Well, the one with Chad, but he was using a test rig. It wasn't. It was something
true.
Yeah, it wasn't
true
really
long ranging where you're like, we're gonna go out and do some long ranging, try to get some.
No, we need to. We definitely need to.
Yeah.
Was this the one in Reno, or was this the one in?
What's the other one?
Did you guys do Zion's as well?
That wasn't really long range. That was his standard quad setup.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
I don't think. I think that it's something where you might not think that you like it until you actually do it, and
for sure.
And it has a lot to do. Like if you live in like Saskatchewan or like where's like a flat area in the States, like I don't know,
salt flats. Flying out
salt
over the
flats.
Great Salt Lake. That's
like,
pretty boring.
You might have to travel to actually get into some like cool mountains or just like cool terrain. But like, you know what I've also just noticed is I never really thought to do, like I always used to think like I get to a spot, I look where I'm going to do my hammer tricks and I'm like, I'm doing a hammer trick there, I'm flying to the next object, I'm doing a hammer trick there, and like that was it. And now it's like I can really explore and I really trust my gear now because I've taken it so far out. So when I go to a regular spot now, it totally opens up the spot. Like the only reason why I did the edit before this, which I named Lithium, the only reason why I started to fly that spot the way that I was flying it was because of the long range. And it's kind of like opened up like that next kind of door of evolution in my flying, right?
Yeah, that's why I like long ranges. It gives you, like, you'll go out and fly 3 miles out, and it's totally boring and stupid, but it gives you the confidence to do that mid-range stuff that you know, when you're hitting gaps 2 miles out, you know that you can do it because you've already gone 3-4 miles out. That's pretty much all long range is good for.
Yeah, and I mean, it's where you really find out the end limits of your setup. I always, whenever I build
which can
a new
be fun
setup,
too, you know, that can be fun too.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get these beautiful cinematic shots. You get to do this awesome proximity to maybe this ridge line or down this face, and you'll know that anything in between, however much further you don't go, is how much longer you can play where you're at. And it really does. It gives you the confidence to say, I know where my battery's voltage is. I know how much I've consumed. I can stay out this much longer. Or in my case, you can go out and you can say, okay, I can do 2 more tricks and I'm going to have to walk a half mile. I know I'm not going to make it back if I do this line one more time. And is it worth it? Well, do I not have any more charged batteries? No. Yeah, it's worth it. I'll be walking a little bit. But
so what gear are you guys running right now for your long range setups?
I have one that needs to get fixed after yesterday.
Ooh.
But typically I'm running a 6-inch with 1800 kV on 6S.
Which frame is that, Bryce?
So this is the Rebel Ruxus 6-inch.
Okay, yeah.
I've just barely actually started a new 6-inch build with the Warp 9 frame, which is a Uvify product. I'm really actually pretty excited for it. It's turning out pretty nice. Then the other one that has just been kind of a staple has been this guy. He was, when I was first getting into long range, we were trying isolation mounts for Jello, because that's also typically associated with long range. You can see how I have my antennas. I wanted to make sure they were max optimal position.
Right.
So just a bunch of different stuff.
So everyone that's not watching the actual, they're just listening and they're not watching the video. So Bryce has showed us what it looked like to me, a 6-inch. Which frame is that one?
The last one?
Yeah.
It's just one I designed myself and routed
Okay.
out.
So I also saw a Ruckus in there. And what he did was he 3D printed. So he's 3D printed 2 parallel pieces. Mm-hmm. And then he's using an Immortal T. And then what's the antenna that you're using for your 5.8?
This is an Axie.
An Axie. And what he's done is he's made it very visible for when you're coming down the mountain. Is that what you guys have done, or?
Yeah, so the goal is to make the antenna visible in the most configurations possible, which usually means a vertical antenna out the top of the quad. Because then when you're up on a ridge line and you do a yaw turn to turn whichever direction, if that antenna is pointed straight up and out of the quad, then chances are the receiver and on your goggles and the transmitter in your hands is going to be able to see the antenna on the quad a lot better than if it were all the way down on the side of the quad or underneath the quad or in any other position.
Right. Yeah, you just don't want it hiding behind the battery.
Yeah.
The battery seems to block that transmission.
And do you think that these little things actually help with something that's like 6 miles away?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say
and are you guys running the full size Crossfire as well?
Yeah.
At how many watts?
I leave mine on 500 milliamps. I've done 4 miles on 500 milliamps. I've had mixed results with 100 or milliwatts, excuse me. I've had mixed results with 100 milliwatts, but I guess as soon as I bumped up to 500 milliwatts, I've never had an issue at any type of range.
Yeah.
Would you guys ever run like the 1 watt or the 2 watt?
Just drains my battery faster and I don't need it. So
Right.
We've done it in, when we're nervous, but probably hasn't been necessary. I've had a couple of fail-safes with 500 milliwatts, but I think that was just my own negligence. Really, the
broken
biggest
antenna.
By far, the biggest factor is your battery life, and we've got a patch antenna. We're running 5.8. I don't have a ground station just because I can use my head to kind of zero in on the location. I like to be able to do that. Can't really do that with a ground station. Yeah, and by far it's the battery that limits everything.
absolutely.
I have my spotter point my ground station if I think that I've gone into an area that's sketchy. I'm like, okay, Aaron, he's standing usually by my ground station. I'm like, okay, you got to turn it a little bit right for me, a little bit right, a little bit up, a little bit. Okay, there we go. But with my ground station, I have quad diversity, so I have 4 antennas pointing everywhere, right? I can't do it with I
have a really nifty antenna tracker where I have my hat turned around backwards, so the bill of my hat is pointing out the back, And if my antenna's not pointed in the right direction, then my spotter or Provo, whoever's there at the time, he's my antenna tracker. And he grabs the hat bill and he points my head around to wherever I need to be pointing my antenna.
Yeah.
To get the best
I
video.
do that with Aaron. I just like turn his whole body. I'm like, okay, there you go. There you go. Yeah, it's better. Yeah, that's good.
I mean, the equipment is a huge aspect of long range, and it's really fun to talk about. But I think my favorite thing talking about long range is the stories that people gather. Because they're going down these chutes, or they're having to rappel down in to get their quad, or they had to go for this massive hike to go get their quad, and they get stung by bees. I mean, that's what's really appealing about long range, is just how much more involved the pilot actually is in the flight.
Yeah. Aaron just lost a quad in the waterfalls, and it was like, it's a mid-range flight. Like, we were able to walk up this waterfall in like 20 minutes. But when you get back there in the video, it doesn't look like anything, but you could hear like the concussion of the water hitting these rocks. And it's like, we're trying to communicate to each other and we're like 5 feet away and we can hardly hear each other. Right. And then it's like, to get in to where he's going, it's so gnarly, man. Like, you have to, we brought a 5-foot ladder. We put the 5-foot ladder into this pool. The pool was like, it took up half the 5-foot ladder. So we have to come back with like a 24-foot ladder just to get into this next area to see if it's in a pool. And just the adventures we had just doing that one day is we'll have those stories forever. Right. Yeah. Not to mention the actual flying we did the day before he lost his quad. You know, it's.
Yeah,
I've gotten into more shape. I wouldn't say I've gotten into shape, but I've got, I can climb a hill without becoming completely wheezy now. But since I started long range, it's great. I've gotten more involved with the outdoors. I've seen. I've lived here in Utah all my life, but I've seen more of it in the last year than I have in my whole life. It's awesome. I love it. I love doing long range.
I mean, you learn a little bit about yourself too. I mean, it puts you in these scenarios. I remember when I was hiking for this quad with my buddy, I was smart enough to bring a friend, and we had actually rigged up ropes because I had to rappel down into this this canyon that had a waterfall in it. I mean, Provo and I, we call it the crack now, but I had to rappel down into it to get my quad out. And on the way back, we were coming down some really slick, really steep rocks, and at the bottom there was a ledge. We couldn't see off the ledge. And I lost my footing, and I start going down this rock, and I'm gaining speed. And it was when I learned what my last words would have been if that would have been my last time. And it was like, oh crap. I mean, that's what I would have said if I'm ever getting hit by a car or something. I'm gonna turn. That's probably what's gonna be in my mouth. It's gonna be crap. I mean,
so what happened with this near-death experience? Did you catch your footing, or did you have tied off, or what?
No, I wasn't tied off. I wasn't anything. It was looking at it. My mind had convinced myself that this was going to be the end. This is how I go. I was either going to die or have broken legs. I could see the ledge, and the only thing that came out of my mouth was, oh crap.
Jesus.
So, I mean,
okay, so what happened? How did you stop yourself? Like,
I didn't. I shot off the end of the cliff. Fortunately, it was only a 5-foot cliff. So I hit the dirt on the backside, and I was okay.
Oh, nice.
But you didn't get stung by bees.
No, that was Provo. He was the one who got stung by bees. They got in his beard.
Bryce was in the front. Jared from creativedex.com, he was in the middle, and I was in the back. And I think Bryce stirred the bee's nest up, and Jared got stung once. I got stung 3 or 4 times.
This is the fun stuff of long range, right?
Yeah, well, this waterfall, we're like, we need to come back with helmets. And like, I need to go up there and spot you, Aaron, because like literally you could die, and I might not know what's happening to you. You might be face down, like in a pool of, in the pool that the waterfall was running into, and I might not even know. It's definitely, it brings back the adventure. And you're right, Christian. I was walking up this hill, and only then did I know how like out of shape I really was. Usually when I crash, I run to get my quad because I know that it takes a lot of my like time away from building, editing, flying, and
you might as well exercise, right? I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Run to the crash site, get it, pick it up, run back, get at least a little bit of exercise in.
Christian, what are you running for long range setup?
So I've got kind of basically, this is my old reliable here. Basically the same thing. It's a Rebel Ruckus 6-inch. This is the X configuration. I'm actually running F40s. They're 2400 kVs. And this is a 5-cell with 6-inch propellers. So
it's fast.
Not your typical setup yet. It still can be very efficient, just to, because I can baby the throttle. I've done
what I've noticed, actually. Sorry to interrupt, but what I've noticed is when you get out to the point where you can't see your quad, your throttle will start to rise slowly. This is what I've noticed, at least. And I usually have to take off my glove or my goggles and like look down and like readjust my throttle and just like put my goggles back on and just like kind of stay off of it.
So you don't have OSD yet, huh?
I'm barbaric, buddy. I'm just setting up these acro quads with no OSD with like my amp drawing crazy setup, right?
When we first started, we used to have just like voltage and amps on there, not much, but now we've got link quality on there.
Yeah.
We have throttle. Throttle is super important for long range, especially if you're really trying to push the limits. If you can't see your throttle, you're going to end up giving it too much throttle. So you put your throttle on there. I think the most recent addition is we've put our pitch angle on there as well. There's all kinds of things on our OSD that we're using now.
So I've gotten there. I just have to install. I got these Brain FPV boards, and their OSD is really good. I have it on one of my acro quads, but it wasn't like my like mid-range acro quad. So I this one right here will be getting it installed like pretty much tonight or tomorrow. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. You were talking about your setup there.
Yeah. So it's just a basic, bottom mount. I like the bottom mount because you can put any size battery on. When you get the top mount, you're limited to whatever will fit in between your propellers.
Right.
Yeah. So I've put all kinds of different sizes of batteries on this.
What do you do for jello? Now, does that have like little bobbins on it, rubber bobbins to eliminate jello?
No, this one doesn't. And, I'm still trying to figure that all out. I think one thing that's really helped with jello is I've gotten some ND filters. Those help, as well as, I don't know, I think the props on this one help.
So are those carbon props?
About these props. These are carbon composite props. They don't even make them anymore. They're, they stopped making them like 2 years ago. And I've just kind of stocked up on them. So
does anybody balance props? I mean, people stop.
I balance these, yes.
Okay, I was going to say people stop for freestyle because, you're constantly hitting things. It would take forever to balance all those props.
Way too much time.
For long range, I would think it would make sense because you're not bumping in the stuff as much.
For sure, I think I don't think Bryce balances his. They come pretty balanced. Usually the tri-blades, they're pretty balanced, but usually the bi-blades are not. You have to balance anything over 6 inches. That's a bi-blade, I think.
So what do you think is? Because I myself have been like trying to get my rig less jello-y and less shaky, right? For freestyle, but then I did it and it worked. And then all of a sudden I went in and started launching my quad up these mountains and the jello's back. So, Bryce, does the bobbins work?
They can definitely help. Basically what the bobbin is doing is it's just a vibration isolator. And it has a limited range that it can isolate. So if you have a certain set of propellers or motors and you're vibrating at a different frequency than what the bobbin is able to isolate, then they might actually end up hurting you. We've seen that before too. The best thing I've seen for jello is to learn how to appropriately place your quadcopter's filters if you're running anything over a 5-inch. Anything under a 5-inch, stock Betaflight's filters are going to be set great. And fixing the filters isn't the end-all result. All it
When
does...
you're talking about the Betaflight filters, correct?
Yeah.
Like the gyro filters, notch filters.
So black box tuning, seeing where all the noise is coming in, seeing where you have your peaks of vibration, and then placing the filters in those areas. I haven't found that fixes the problem. It may help, but I have found that it makes tuning your PIDs a lot more responsive when your filters are placed adequately.
I always thought that jello was noise from the quad and not the tune.
It can be a little bit of both. I mean, it's a vast term. Is it jello from a bent motor? Is it jello from an unbalanced prop? Is it jello from an uncalibrated or untuned flight controller? It can come from lots of different sources. So while bobbins may fix it for some people, it may not for others. I've had some quads where a little bit of vibration isolation has helped a lot. I've had other quads where it has done absolutely nothing. So is there a Band-Aid solution that you can just patch over every single quad? Not really, which is why you usually... I like one way that Provo described it once. He said it's kind of like golfing with long range. You have your driver, you have your putters, and you don't mix the two. You don't try and go somewhere with your big main quad that you've got tuned that has jello that you're going to potentially ding a motor bell or ruin it. You kind of keep them clean. And then anything mid-range, you've got your more robust, more typical style quad.
With a different prop as well.
Yeah, so you might be using... Because 5-inch, to me, I'm comfortable out to 2 miles on a 5-inch setup, and I know that a 5-inch setup is going to give me reliable footage. Now, for a 6-inch setup, I'm going to be able to go a lot further, a lot faster. So I'll usually make those my clean setups, and I'll try to not bang them around too much and beat them up so I can rely on the video I get from them. Are you going out to do long range to explore a new mountainside, or are you going out to get the shot? If you're going out to just explore, open up your territory, then you're going to have a lot more fun because you're not going to be as picky about your footage. But chances are, if you're like the rest of us, you're going to get out there, you're going to want to have a picture. You're going to want to have the HD camera recording. So jello it's something to combat and conquer.
Yeah, I think that with my setups, my long range setups at least, I'm not going to even... Like, they're going to go in, like, the front seat, you know what I mean? Like, they're not even going to get, like, any pressure on the motors or anything.
Yeah,
they're
don't put them in the backpack, you know?
Yeah, don't put them in the backpack. And it's just going to be that quad, right? For now, beggars can't be choosers. I only have 2 working setups because I don't have enough time to build a third, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, even I think with this one, I think if I just had brand new motors and brand new props, it would be perfect. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have to even use bobbins, but I've been thinking about like my 6-inch setup that's going to be like a mid-range. I can still do some acro when I get to the spot. It's definitely going to have some bobbins on it and maybe some more noise isolation from the motors and start balancing out props. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, while we're talking about jello and vibrations and all that, can we talk about my 7-inch quad?
So what quad is that? Does it looks like strike arms?
This is a BRAP. It's a 7-inch BRAP. It's a custom build. It even has like a vibration isolating camera mount on top, which doesn't seem to be doing its job. I don't know. It's 7-inch. Bryce, have you figured out 7-inch yet?
I'm gonna have to say no.
No.
I'm jumping over 7-inch because I haven't found any props that I like.
So I've done.
What about a 7-inch
everything.
tri-blade?
Doesn't matter.
Does it exist?
Yeah,
yes,
the B1S 7-inch tri-blade.
It doesn't matter.
Still, hey, it doesn't work.
I want to put a bounty out there because I've tried everything. In fact, this is an 8S setup. You've got two 4S batteries on it. I come up in series. I thought maybe running a 1200 kV motor with 7-inch props and 8S. I thought maybe that was the problem. Maybe the motors weren't, 6S. It wasn't efficient power. So 8S, it doesn't work. So I'm putting a bounty out there, if you don't mind. Anybody who's got a setup that they don't get that 7-inch, what are we calling it? The 7-inch twitch.
So is it doing this?
Yeah, it's not like jello in that it's predictable. It's more of like an unpredictable twitch that just kind of shows up wherever.
And do you think it happens more with windy weather?
Yeah, it happens more with windy weather, but it also happened with no wind. So
how does like something like an Inspire do it, where it's like a 12-inch prop or 10-inch prop?
It has a gimbal on it. That's how.
Yeah.
So is that the solution? We just, with these big 8-inch, 7-inch rigs that we're going to want to probably build soon, do we just start building gimbals?
How are you going to do your flips and rolls? I mean,
how are you going to keep the footage exciting? We're trying to get away from the cable cam here, you know? That's my next goal, is to be able to have a cinematography drone without a gimbal. That's kind of something me and Bryce are working on, but
right.
We're in the beginning stages of that.
I didn't realize that the 7 inches were so
7-inch, 8-inch, 9-inch. They all have them.
Very, very problematic. Very.
So can we maybe start talking to like the Butterfly dev team or the Betaflight dev team to help us out with this?
I'm not sure the problem can be resolved using firmware that run your gyros. I'm not sure that's how it's going to be solved.
Most of the vibrations, when you get over a 6-inch, is props. And people, even when they balance, they typically will just balance one way. You can actually do a 2-stage balancing.
Yeah, you have to balance the prop blades as well as the hub of the
hub. Right. Yeah, and also the motors. Which in the Hype Train motors, we just upgraded to EZO motors, or bearings, which actually is a pretty vast improvement.
How low a KV you got on those things?
Tommy's anyway. Is 2150.
Yeah, it's a 2150. I've actually got a set on the way. I'm excited to test those.
Yeah, so far people...
Is that low enough for a 7-inch, you think, Bryce? I think it needs to be lower for 7-inch, but
I think your motor is going to be saturated for sure. Yeah. Your flight controller won't be able to ramp up and ramp down well enough. But for a 6-inch, I think that's going to be great.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Tommy, he'll run 5.5, 6-inch, 5S. Gabby actually has been running a 6S on the regular Hype Trains. So.
Wow.
Yeah. This whole long range stuff is new to me, so I haven't really done that much video exploring, and I just came across Gabby's is it Gab 707?
Are you talking about Gab or Gabby Chavez?
Okay,
Gabby
so
Chavez.
there's a different Gabby. I always get mixed up, but I'm talking about Gab 707, and I saw that elevation, I think, edit, and I was just jaw dropped, floored, and I can't even believe, I'm trying to still figure out what he was doing. I think there's more going on to it. He's doing zooms and ramping up speed and stuff like that too, right? Yeah. When he's in there,
he's using the stabilization software.
Yeah,
is he?
Real steady.
Real steady.
Oh, okay. Anyways, impressive stuff. Well, who else is out there that's really pushing the long range envelope right now?
I don't know.
It's a good question.
Well, Gambit is doing it with
I haven't really looked around. I haven't really looked around, to tell you the truth. But well, the whole reason I brought up the 7-inch is because with 7-inch you're going to be able to go longer, right? I mean, as soon as when we start flying around 10 inches, we're going to be able to carry bigger batteries, which means we're going to be able to go further. It's just, the bigger you get, somehow, I don't know what it's called, but somehow the bigger you get, the further you can go. So that's where we're going for. I want to be
bigger is better.
Bigger.
So
it's not better right now. It's not better. Right. It's further, but it's definitely not
more
better.
Problematic.
So I still don't get how an Inspire, my Inspire 1 still has the original props on them, and I stuffed this thing into my trunk. They're probably so unbalanced, and it's held on with bobbins, and then there's the gimbal. But does the gimbal really take out that much jello and oscillation?
Yeah, the floating gimbal takes out a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
And I think that also has a lot to do with the physical properties of that gimbal as well. Not just the electronic and the way that the camera is the motors are counteracting all those movements. It's that it's actually, it's got a weight to it that also helps counteract all those vibrations. That's the other thing is GoPros are fairly light. So they're really susceptible to any kind of movements, any kind of vibration. If they were a solid brick of gold, you wouldn't have nearly as much jello or nearly as much twitching
or nearly as much lift. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had that with the Mavic even. I tied a big string around my Mavic and hung a big magnet from it because I was out fishing for another drone, and I noticed drastic reduce in flight time with the Mavic, obviously, but so, I mean, where's the balance at begins to be the question. And I don't know.
So ND filters, bobbins, having clean builds where you only use them for long range are some of the solutions.
Go to church every Sunday. I mean, there are lots of things you can do to try to hope that it works.
And I know also too, you two have been really hands-on with designing a long-range frame for, am I allowed to say it, for a specific company?
Yeah, we're working on a platform currently with Rebel right now. We're in the stages where we are at mixed feelings, but with super high hopes. When we get all of the kinks ironed out, then this frame is going to be killer for long range, because the idea is to have something that's simple, that's easy, that meets all of the requirements hardware wise, and that is more available to a less experienced pilot. So it can be something we would say, if you're running this setup, use this profile. If you're using this setup, use this profile. And so instead of starting from ground zero, you're starting with a quadcopter that, for all intents and purposes, can be anywhere from 80% to 100% finished. That's the vision. That's the idea. And I mean, if you're going to change props or change motors and stuff, there's still that degree of variability, or if you're flying in 60 mile per hour headwinds. But the idea is to get a very competent, very sleek, very nice looking frame combination that is basically mostly all the way there.
Right, and
it's an 8-inch.
Yeah.
And
it's 7-inch props. I was on I built a little thrust stand that would measure vibrations, and I could not find, this was before V1S, so I need to throw those on, but I couldn't find a single 7-inch prop that ran without vibrations. And I balanced some and they got pretty good. Jumped up to the 8-inch and it was a lot better.
Really?
Weird. Yeah, it was very
8 inches better, eh?
Actually, it's been like that forever. We settled back in the flight test days. We settled in on 8-inch props because 7s. Yeah, for some reason 7s. We could never find a good 7-inch prop, and 9-inch sucked. 10-inch was good. So
can I use this as a plea to prop manufacturers to make a good 7-inch prop, please?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm going to choose all magic numbers on my prop sizes.
Make a good 7-inch prop, please. Make one that's
running
balanced in the hub as well as the blades. Thank you.
So, actually, if you guys know what you want, why don't we talk to HQ and see if they'll make some to spec?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be awesome. If you got that kind of connection, I'd love to exploit it.
All right.
Absolutely.
Let me know what you guys are looking for.
I think long range in the future is going to be pretty big. It's going to be like the micro, I think. But it's going to take the right person. They're going to have to, spend a little bit more money on a better rig, I think, if you want to really get out there, and spend more money on the GoPro if you want to capture it. And then you're also going to have that gambling, rolling the dice. And is there a ghost branch there? Is there not a ghost branch there? Am I losing video link? Am I going to lose my whole setup? But I absolutely think it's going to be something big in the near future. And you guys have ran into what I ran into like 2 years ago when I wanted to fly a high KV 6S 6-inch setup. there just weren't components for it. And I was just like kind of scrounging up like what I could find. And I just started using a 6-inch prop that could actually get tuned properly from software and hardware, right?
And so you're loving it now. You got all that stuff now.
Oh, it's just so
batteries,
amazing.
Motors, ESCs, they all do it.
Yeah.
But I think
we talk
a
lot about how the future, the near future, long range is in the near future. I disagree. I think that all of this stuff is here in front of us for long range. I think the rest of the world and the pilots, we're just playing catch up. I think we have the components. I think we have the setups. I don't.
Right.
We just don't have the prop.
Yeah, we're really just limited by the prop.
No, let's seriously work on that. Zong at HQ has been really good about developing stuff that we're looking for.
Well, Zong was like the whole reason why I was able to do a lot of the tuning and getting all the jello and shakes out of my quad from before, because even his regular just PC prop is way more well balanced, I think, in my opinion, than a lot of other prop manufacturers out there. And like this prop that I'm using right now, I don't even know what it's called, but I can't get enough of it. Like he sent me out all these other ones too to try out, but I'm loving this prop.
Looks like a V1S.
No, it's not a V1S. That's
or which
a little more blocky.
Yeah, which one is that?
I forgot what it is. An HQ though.
Yeah,
durable of some sort.
4.5 pitch, 5-inch, and this is what I've been long ranging with, and I'm getting 4-minute flight times with it. So I can send it out like 2 kilometers. But yeah, I think with this Rebel frame that they're doing, I've seen it, and I know what you guys have put into it. I see a lot of frame manufacturers just saying it takes a 7-inch prop. There's your long range setup. And I think that there's a lot of other things they have to look at. And I'm glad that you two are designing it for chase, because it's definitely people are going to be cloning that shit as soon as it comes out, because there's a lot of stuff in there that I believe is next level stuff for long ranging.
So
hope.
Bryce, you're putting a lot of time into all this. Don't stop on the videos.
Yeah, right.
I'm really enjoying your videos.
I'm gonna have to try and figure out maybe sell some of my 3D planes so I can get another Hero 6 if I can't get my other one back. But I love
got 5
sharing.
You can borrow.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Why don't you start?
I don't want to lose your cameras now, man. I have a hard time enough keeping track of my own gear.
Yeah, the Hero 6 is something. I can't believe it's $500. I went online because I usually buy my GoPros used in a box from someone that maybe stole it before or something, and get that crazy discount on it. And they haven't.
Gear.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't had a chance to steal this one yet because there's nothing online. And it's going to suck having to go in there and pay full prop and pay all my taxes on something I potentially am sending out into like, it may as well be space, you know what I mean? Because I'm never getting it back.
Just wait until you put it in 1080 and 240 and do super slow motion on your first waterfall dive. It'll make it all worth it, I promise.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm looking for as well. Looking forward to as well.
Good stuff.
Anything else you guys wanna cover before we wrap this up?
No, I think we're good. It's been a good episode.
I do want to apologize to Bryce. I still have your award sitting in my truck.
Well, as long as it's safe and sound somewhere.
It is.
Would you win? You won something? Wait, what?
Yeah. Yes, he won the Rotor Riot Medallion Award. We do once a month. We'll pick a pilot we feel that is showing a lot of improvement, embodies the values of Rotor Riot, and just is really starting to make a mark or has made a mark. And Bryce was the winner last month. Drew,
I was quite surprised. I'm super glad that you guys picked me.
Well, we're hoping you keep pushing, so keep it up.
Oh yeah, I'm not planning on stopping.
I don't follow many people. Like, there's a very select group of pilots that I follow, and no joke, Bryce, I started following you. What's your Instagram exactly? Is it Skyberries FPV? That's it? Yeah,
it's like Skyberries_FPV.
So Skyberries_FPV. Go check them out. He's killing it. And then there's also, it's Provo FPV, right?
It's FPV Provo.
FPV Provo on Instagram. Yeah. And you can see all their long range adventures. So I'm
well, Christian, your name came from your location, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 3 years ago, I started an Instagram called FPV Provo because I wanted people to be able to search for people who were doing FPV in Provo. So I couldn't think of a better name than FPV Provo.
Well, that worked well.
But then I started going to races, and people started recognizing me, and a lot of people don't know that Provo's a place. So they just assumed that Provo was my name, and, so they'd, hey, Provo, you're Provo, right? And, instead of just, well, actually,
You're like, yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's me. So it kind of stuck. And besides, back in 2015 at Drone Nationals, there were a lot of people named Christian at that race for whatever reason. So
well, that's weird. I don't hear the name a lot. My son's name is Christian, and I don't hear the name a lot.
I remember when I went to the States, and I think it was either what's the race called in Vegas? The obstacle course,
XDC,
not the race. XDC. So many Christians in the States. I don't know what it is.
We're very religious.
Well, I think it was just at that race. They've kind of, died off, I think. But it was definitely more convenient.
They're all dead now.
Just go by Provo.
Yeah.
Christian,
are you racing in DRL right now still?
Yes, we...
one of their best, might I add.
We're about halfway... Well... We're not quite halfway through the season yet, but we're filming for that. It'll air in September. The championship race will be in Saudi Arabia.
Holy smokes! Oh, you know what I wanted to cover actually.
Wait, before you go there, since we're on the name thing, I wanted to ask Bryce where Skyberries came from.
So, getting into quads, I'm sure you all can relate. When you crash, you're just parts out in a field, and after I would crash, I was going out there and I felt like I was picking up berries, like collecting berries. There's a motor, there's a prop, there's a VTX, so it was like little sky berries riddled all over the ground. So
okay, I enjoyed that.
For the longest time, I didn't know really what the name was, Bryce. So we would always call you like Skillberry. Like every time like me and Aaron would mention you, we'd be like, yeah, Skittleberries or raspberry.
I like that. Where were you when I was deciding on a handle?
Yeah. What I wanted to see, what I was going to mention is what I wanted to see is someone like DR1 that has that money to set up these crazy courses, to put a course on top of a mountain ridge and like have these like crazy gates you have to like helicopter in to like place down, and when you crash it's like you're never getting the quad back, and it's a little bit more riskier for these types of events, and then have you guys just fly these things as fast as humanly possible, and like have like launch them from a helicopter so you didn't have to waste the battery to like get out there, you know what I mean?
So that's what Drone Worlds was supposed to be. When we went out scouting in Hawaii, yeah, the concept was to put the gates on the side of the cliffs and all that. And then once it finally came around, it was pretty much just like in a field.
The lamest track ever.
Yeah.
Let's set up some
long straight, turn long straight, turn long straight.
Yeah. Like imagine if you're just like you're coming up and you have to like split S into a cliff.
Matty, have you seen my I called it Cliff Racing League Terrace 1.
What?
Yeah, it's like 2 years old. Go back and check it out. It's
definitely go look it up.
I will.
Oh, that's one of your videos?
It's a pretty weak edit, but it's kind of what you're talking about.
Where you kind of set up on a cliff?
I set up, yeah.
You know what? I'm pretty sure I've seen it, but it was like 2 years ago, so I just kind of forget what it looked like.
It was, like. We flew it with, it wasn't too far. One guy flew it with the FR Sky, and he did have a failsafe. Another guy flew
what was
with
it called?
Spectrum,
What's the video called?
I think it's called CRL Terrace
Okay.
1. And that's just kind of a play on DRL level 1, but it's,
Oh my
Clip
gosh.
Bryce, do you have a sewing kit? Are you the sewer?
Me? Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean sewer? I got a sewing machine, but my wife doesn't let me call it that. I have to call it the stitcher so I can remain man.
Are you the one that made the motor pants?
Yeah, I've got the motor pants.
Buddy,
Wait,
you're like a really accomplished sewer, I think, man, because
thank you.
the seams
Stitcher.
in them look
Stitcher.
like it was
Yeah, I'm a very accomplished stitcher.
seamstress.
Stitcher.
Yeah,
So-
we were just having fun one day, so I cut the bottom off of one of my pants and made pants for my motor because everybody wanted motor pants, so I didn't want to feel left out.
Two things. You two need to come up to BC as soon as humanly possible. Okay?
Oof.
And we
Okay,
gotta fly
be there.
some long range. That's
Yeah.
the first thing. And the second thing, Chad, I think you need to start diving into long range a little bit more on the Rotor Riot channel and get like
Yeah,
a
I would
proper,
agree.
like maybe even like a how-to, because I'm telling you, I think if people knew a couple things before they went out, they would definitely let me tell you Aaron's first long range flight. He takes off, had crashed, he takes off, he sends it to the top of the cliff, turns around, no video. And we're like, what the hell's happening? And then he's going, there's like in his DVR, literally for 8 seconds straight, there's no video. And it just kind of flickers on and you just see him like banking towards like the side of the cliff. And then he's like, we both scream and like he levels it off and like it starts coming back and like the video's like, it's just shit, right? Like literally you see like a very like light silhouette of like the horizon. So he crushes long story short, he gets this thing home and I'm like, do you have an antenna on that thing? And he's like, yeah, of course I have an antenna on it. And then I'm like looking at it, like, there's no antenna, dude. And the spot he was at before, he crashed and the antenna broke off, but he didn't do the checklist, right? This is the new thing that we have is we check the quad before we send it up. So that was like the first rule that we started with. And it was also making this insane high-pitched noise when it got back and we found out that one of the props was loose, right? Oh. So literally his first flight, he had 2 huge problems that he could have avoided if he had, this little bit of help. So I think that, Chad, I think you should definitely do a how-to and maybe get these guys to help you out with it. And because I know they're very experienced long rangers.
There's been quite a few whiteboard sessions where we scribbled out and we've done the math on quite a few. And we said, okay, if we have this setup, we pulled this many amps, we're going to probably be traveling this speed. And that's what we did. We got a Titan. I mean, this is a lithium-ion battery. A lot of people are asking, how big of a battery should you go? Well, this is a 7-amp-hour battery. And we strapped it to the bottom of the mini quad. I did some numbers, and it said, technically, we should be able to do 12 miles round trip. So we went out there, ran the battery to the end, measured it in Google Maps after we hit 12.5. So you can calculate to a really close-ish number just how far you're actually going to be able to fly. So I think what would be fun is to do a long-range shootout where you have a quad, you know how far you can go, and then you play a game of chicken where you get 3 or 4 pilots that are flying out to this wall, and whoever gets the furthest out and still makes it back is the winner of the competition. I think that would be pretty fun.
So what you're saying is math works.
Math works.
Math works, and let's do a Rotor Riot episode on that.
Yeah. On math.
Here, Chad, in case you hadn't seen, these are the pants.
No, I had not seen that. That's amazing.
You haven't seen the motor pants?
Yeah, little XT60 shoes.
Was that on your Instagram?
Yeah, this was a long time ago, like at least 6 weeks or 7 weeks.
Oh, yeah, that's like 10 years in drone years.
Yeah, right? In drone years, that's a long time. I mean, this is a whole different setups. We were probably still running Gem Fam props, the really old school ones.
Way back. Oh, I gotcha.
Okay, guys. Well, hey, thanks for coming out. Thanks for hanging out and informing a lot of people that I'm sure that if you want to get into long range, I'm sure there's long range forums out there that you can get onto, but I would really like to see Chad bring out a long range because I'm just so into this stuff right now. I'm so stoked on it. But thanks a lot for coming by and hanging out and chatting.
So
yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Salt Lake City for you?
For me?
Matty, yeah, how far of a flight is that? That's not too bad, is it?
I could drive there in 7 hours. I've already talked to Chase about this. I think I might be actually heading down there before you guys head up here, by the way.
So, okay.
Are you saying let's do an episode and I'll just come on down?
Do some episodes in Salt Lake City.
Done. All right. One word of warning, if you come down here, bring a couple quads to sacrifice to the mountain just in case. It's eating a number now.
I'm going to send up a tiny whip.
Okay.
I'm going to set up a tiny whip and be like, okay, this is my quad, guys.
There you go.
Sorry.
Yeah.
A long-range tiny whip. It's been done.
I made one of those.
People are working on it.
Yeah.
So it's measured in feet, right?
Yeah. Well, my long-range tiny whip was a tiny whip that was basically bolted to the bottom of a 5-inch frame. Man, did that tiny whip have some range.
He cheated.
Hey, but it looked legit. That's all that counts, right? HD to prove it, even though it's HD on a tiny whip.
Yeah.
Okay, well, guys, we're gonna wrap it up here. Chad, is there anything else you want to follow up with? How's quad camp going? Are seats filled? Where are we going to next?
Quad camp's great. Next is Knoxville, but it may have occurred by the time this airs. And then we have Detroit. And I don't know where after that. I really want to get to London over the summer if we can. So,
London where?
Is quad camp?
Like London, England.
Okay, because there's a London, Ontario.
Oh, yeah.
Canada? You're going to go to the East Coast and not the West Coast? Like, let's go.
Or,
London would be pretty cool.
Or
Who's
Ireland.
quad camp for?
I'm not sure.
Who's quad camp for?
It's really for kind of more of the intermediate to even advanced. Typically, the people that show up are people that have already flown, or they're just getting their first quad built, or they've been flying for a while and want to tune or tweak or just learn from others. What I really like about quad camp is everyone helps one another. I mean, it's not just the Rotor Riot guys like teaching you what they know. It's everybody kind of meeting that's kind of in the same zone, and it's like very concentrated. It's really cool. Like everybody that's gone has really enjoyed it.
Usually the new guys know the new stuff and the old guys know the old stuff. That's what I've found out. Like
that's probably well put. Yeah.
Are you the new guy or the old guy, Christian?
Oh, I could tell you all about one shot 125 all day. But hey. Yeah.
It's because we get burnt out. See, I'm older than all of you guys in this hobby, so I've gotten sick of tuning because I was tuning Arduino
10 years
boards.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you old schooler.
So I don't even want to tune. I'm just like, give me something and I'll use a stock tune and that's it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Great. Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem.
It's been awesome hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, we loved having you guys, and I'm serious. I want to get out to Salt Lake.
Yeah, we're gonna end this call. You guys stick around, and then we'll talk about that. But thank you everyone for joining for this episode of Unrestricted Podcast. See you later.